Riffical Records presents the East-West Vinyl Analysis with your hosts Mark Anthony Kay and Ken Keenan. Greetings, friends, and welcome to episode number 18 of the East-West Vinyl Analysis. And we're back. And see, it didn't take us 9 months this time to come back and do another episode. I think it's only been a couple of weeks, in fact, since we did our last episode. So that's good news and a sign of maybe things to come in the future with this podcast, because I think we have a lot of great ideas to do, and me and Ken are re-fired up about doing this podcast again. So I'm looking forward to many great things. So before we get started, as usual, I'd like to say hello to my good friend and fellow partner here, Mr. Ken Keenan. How are you, sir?
I am doing good, and we're just a little smoky here in California, but, staying inside, and so I don't have to breathe the stuff in, a lot of fires, but otherwise, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing very good. I'm just concerned that you're hopefully not too close to the fire area, are you?
Not too close, except there was one that was probably in that about, I want to say 5 miles or more, 5 to 10 miles. But it's going the other direction. So we're kind of upwind, I guess you'd call it. So that's a good thing. And where it's burning is not too many houses out there or anything. So, which is a good thing.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that, because I'd hate to have to see you run all of a sudden, grab a hockey bag or something, and just hand grab all your albums and dump them into a hockey bag off the shelf there and just run out the door.
Good luck with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in a more serious note, hopefully everybody out there is safe and nobody's gotten hurt from this, because those kind of things are unpredictable, as we all know. Yeah. It can turn on a dime, and next thing you know, people's houses are gone, and all their memories are up in smoke. So, hopefully everybody will get through this fine, and we'll be talking about more happier and optimistic things.
Yes.
And speaking of happy and optimistic things, we're back with vinyl today. So, what's the topic for today? Well, the topic today is Gatefold albums. So cool ones, our favorite ones. These could be albums that have fantastic music in it as well. I mean, it's not just the album itself. It could be a record that we enjoy. But I think mainly these are records, at least on my end of things, are ones that I think of when I think of, a really cool gatefold, or a gatefold that I think was designed well, or a gatefold that I would love to have done if it was me, if it was my record. I would be so proud to have this kind of a gatefold, just those kind of things that catch your eye, or things that you appreciate about a certain gatefold of a record. Now, before we start, I did notice one thing that's kind of interesting, and I'm wondering if, Ken, you agree with me or not.
Okay.
I was going through my collection, trying to see what kind of gatefolds I had, and kind of, maybe I was starting to think of maybe picking some not so common albums. Now, I didn't pick, I would say, like really common records, but I'm finding, though, that if you want to pick obscure records don't always have gatefolds, because if you think about it, those cost money to make, and usually bands that have big budgets and are in big labels can afford to do these kind of things. And if you have some guy who's, Joe Blow from, Boston, Massachusetts, who's just pressing 150 albums, not likely he's going to have a very cool gatefold, album to show you.
Right.
Sometimes that's not true, but on the most part, I think that's why more common bands that we know will have those kind of cool gatefolds.
That's true. I mean, I was looking at the same kind of things, and noticing that a certain kind of era seemed to maybe it was in the cool thing to do at the time, or it was just
in vogue.
In vogue. And the other thing was, I thought about what, it costs a little bit more. And thinking about it, it probably didn't cost a whole heck of a lot more to print an extra flap or something. It did cost money, but the record companies were making so much money back in the day that it was like, we can do it. But today, in today's world, I would see a lot less of those type of things going on. But they still do it. At least when they do a repress, they they try to keep the original, artwork and layout and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, back then, of course, you got, like you said, you made a good point that these record labels that are helping make these albums, they have huge, wads of money.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about the fact that, they're probably ordering tens of thousands of copies of these albums at a time, the printing costs go considerably down. Whereas if somebody orders like 1,000 records, the cost is much more significant, right? So you're right. I mean, maybe the gatefold wasn't as big an issue, but then again, of course,
yes,
it goes back to the whole thing about whether you're on a label or not.
Oh yeah. Where they have the budget to do it, and having more space to put pictures and lyrics or whatever on the cover, it's going to cost more money in your art department and that sort of thing, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're gonna each pick 3 albums to show you, and since last time I went first, how about Mr. Keenan starts off this week?
All right, I can go first. All right, so my first choice, no particular order again. Get the plastic off there. So my first choice is an album from, 1971, I believe. Is it 71? Let me just make sure. Yeah, 1971. Released May 20th, 1971, by an artist that everyone should know. And the album is Every Picture Tells a Story. Rod Stewart. Okay, now I picked this because if you see this, it doesn't flip out this way. It doesn't flip out from here. It actually opens up. And it opens downward here.
Nice.
So it's when you look at all the sections here.
It's upside down.
That one's probably upside down, and the whole thing. Actually, you flip it that way. So, I might as well show you this too, because the back side is like I do upside down again. I might as well show you this. So this part is perfed up here, and it hadn't been perfed to be, hang this up like a poster.
Yeah.
It's Rod Stewart. So that's that. And then the other side has, band information and so on that performed in the group, Ronnie Wood and so on, I think.
Yes.
Pete Sears. So yeah, I thought it's kind of an interesting design and layout, big old thing. I know they did some of this in the early 70s too, because I know there's an Alice Cooper one. They had a calendar type perf thing that they had done.
Yeah.
Now the other stuff is on here is like these. Every picture tells a story. Well, there's a bunch of pictures, kind of old type photographs, and I guess it should, tell a story. Yeah. So this is one of the reasons I got it, because of that, and because it has a lot of good music on it, of course. First of all, like Reason to Believe. Let's see, what's another one on here? I Know I'm Losing You. That was a good hit. Mandolin Wind. Maggie May. Yeah. Of course. And Every Picture Tells a Story. And I remember waking up to Maggie May on the AM radio back before going to school in the morning. My radio would come on, and music would come on the AM station. And one of the songs I played a lot at that time, it was like in the fall of 71, was Maggie May. Now, this is on Mercury. This is, I believe, a first U.S. pressing. I don't know if I can get that up. Oh,
yes. I'm very familiar with this label.
I'll go like that. Yeah.
I am hunting one label like that for a First Rush record.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
First Rush record. Okay.
Yeah. The first Rush album had a label like that too.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah, I think it's a cool label. I think it's my only one that looks like that. That's the only one I have that's like that. Now, this album, some stats other than it being, in 71, the singles were, what's funny is, I don't know if it was double A side single or what, but the first one was Reason to Believe / Maggie May, so it might have been a double A kind of single, but I know Maggie May was the huge hit, and then Every Picture Tells a Story, and then I Know I'm Losing You was the third hit. Another thing about this is, I guess Rolling Stone ranked this as the list of, in 2003, list of 500 greatest albums of all time. They ranked it number 172.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's
pretty high out of 500, and then everything else behind it. The other thing is, it did go number 1 in Canada on the Canada RPM album charts. So, yeah, and in the U.S., where did it go in the U.S.? 34. It did okay. Billboard Pop Albums, 34. So, wait a minute. U.S. Billboard 200, though, went number 1.
Oh, very good.
Those are different Billboard album charts. So,
yeah.
U.S. Billboard 200, so that's another number 1. And it's platinum, 1,700,000, almost double platinum there. So, yeah. So, besides it being a kind of different kind of gatefold, flip open album cover. Again, it has a perf in it, so you could hang the picture of Rod Stewart on your wall or whatever back then.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised it's still attached. It's starting to come a little loose, but it's a great album, and I believe he produced it too, even from what I understand.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So, and everyone knows in the band Ronnie Wood, who's now went on to the Rolling Stones. So,
yeah. I think that was one of his one of the bands that he was very known for. Actually, was being with Rod back then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think he was also with Jeff Beck for a bit. I think too, wasn't he?
I think you're right. That sounds right. And that's it. So that was my first pick. I thought it was kind of a different album to choose, and I didn't think you'd pick it.
Yeah. No, I did not pick it. Excellent pick. Of course, it's a record that is a classic in the music circles, I'm sure, and probably a collectible with many people who collect vinyl records. I would say Rod Stewart is, especially that era of Rod, before it became too overly ballady and stuff like that. I think this is when he was still regarded as cool Rod. You know what I mean? So, this is a must-have record for most people, I think. Okay, so I'm going to go to my first choice. And my first choice will be something that I think probably people won't be too surprised with, especially in regards to the band that I'm selecting here. But this album has a gatefold that I immediately took to, like right away the first time I saw it. It has everything that I love about a gatefold. It has a great graphics inside. It has, all the lyrics are in there. Mm-hmm. And more than that, it has like a story inside to explain the songs within the record. And those are the kind of gatefolds I really enjoy, are those kind of albums that have more than just, your regular lyrics and stuff like that. Now, that could be many records, but in this circumstance, I'm talking about Yes, and talking about Tales from Topographic Oceans. Now, this record came out in, let me just get my notes here, December 7th, 1973.
Okay.
It is a double album. It's 81 minutes long. Wow. This album is notorious with Yes fans for a few reasons. Number one, this album came out after the band was already on tour for this record. So, and this band played the whole of this album when they started the tour to an audience that knew absolutely nothing of the music that was on this album.
Yeah, that's a little tough. Yeah.
So imagine this. There are 4 songs on this. 1 song a side. Each song is 20 minutes long. So the whole concert was essentially this album, Close to the Edge, okay, the song,
Yeah.
and Roundabout. And that was it.
Wow.
So people were kind of like, by the end of it, going, what the hell, man? Like, you didn't play anything that we know, you know? So as the tour progressed and the album came out, people became more familiar with the music, but they had changed up the set list to where they dropped side 2 from the live thing and just kept it side 1, 3, and 4. And then after, I think they might have even dropped it to side 1 and 4 at one point later on, which are the best sides in my opinion. But anyways, we're talking about gatefolds, and this is the gatefold for this.
Oh, that's nice.
Here.
Yeah, that's a nice looking. Yeah, I like that. That, you know, you see the effort put into the design of this cover.
Yeah, and if you look in there, like, there's like a huge kind of like story about each thing, like the sides. And I mean, we're talking about John Anderson here. So when John Anderson writes something, it sounds like he had a spliff or two before he started writing it. You know, he writes all kinds of interesting things about here. You know, saying that, you know, like the revealing science of God can be seen as an ever-opening tower, which the simple truth comes from. Like all kinds of like crazy like notions that he talks about on here.
Visions he saw, you know, and stuff like that. Yeah.
I mean, he apparently came up with the idea of this whole thing while on a cross ocean flight, you know, with the band. Yeah. So, and you know, of course, this has all kinds of fantastic pictures, and Roger Dean's artwork, which is, you know, what Yes is known for, is his artwork. And I mean, this was again one of these album covers that he was known for, and what was in again one of those kind of lists of the top, you know, kind of album covers of the, you know, decade or whatever. This album, since you showed yours, I will show mine as well. This is a Canadian first press. Okay. You can usually always tell that because they had the custom labels at that time for this.
Yeah. Custom label. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The funny thing is that most Yes fans will probably say, well, what are you talking about? I think every one of these versions of it have this. But that's not true. I have a Tales from Topographic Oceans in my cave downstairs that has a Atlantic red, white, and green label, like the normal one for this record. So obviously there is a later pressing of this album. Yeah, and it does not include this label on it. So that's a note for those people who are maybe collectors and are seeking out something different as far as, you know, this record is concerned. So there are other versions of it, right? Yeah. But like I said, I do like the layout of it. I do like that there's all kinds of little pictures that, you know, stimulate the mind for when you're listening to it. Because I mean, we're talking about a record that every song is 20 minutes long, you know, and it isn't 20 minutes of singing. You know what I mean? There's like, you know, 3-4 minutes of him singing, 8 minutes of music, another 3 more minutes of singing, another 10 minutes of music. You know what I mean? So you got to have to kind of like use your imagination in here too, right? So, it's interesting. Like the one thing though I would say that I find a little difficult is that the font is a little small and a little difficult to read. But hey, I mean, let's put it this way. Number one, you know, as we get older, everything starts getting harder to read. Number one.
That's true.
And number two, for the amount of information that's on here, if they made the font any bigger, they just couldn't fit it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's albums like that I have, where the font's so small, it's like it's so hard to read it. And the other thing about that is, if they didn't make that into a gatefold, that would have been like a slip cover on the inside, which you would have had probably lyrics on both sides of that, which they do sometimes, you know. I've seen them do vice versa in like pressings, early pressings, and then they go later pressing, and they take the gatefold away, but they keep the lyrics, or vice versa. They make an old album that was not a gatefold. They turn it into a gatefold and put the lyrics on the inside of the cover. I've seen that happen too. But.
Yeah, in fact, they've done that with a Yes record. Yes, Tormato originally was a non-gatefold album, and then when Friday Music reissued it, they made it into a gatefold, and where the inside lyrics sheet was now put on the inside of the gatefold.
Yep, exactly. I think I have another Friday Music one too, like that. I think it's a Billy Joel album. They did the same thing. Yep.
Cool. So the track listing for this, for people who might be interested, side 1 is The Revealing Science of God at 20 minutes 27 seconds long. Mm-hmm. Side 2 is The Remembering, and that's 20 minutes 38 seconds. Side 3 is The Ancient (brackets Giants Under the Sun) at 18 minutes and 34 seconds. That's the short one. It's like that's the single. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And side 4 is probably the most popular one, and the one that they've always been playing live for as far back as I can remember them playing, is The Ritual Nous Sommes du Soleil, which is 21 minutes 35 seconds long. That is an incredible song. If you ever want to listen to one song off this album, I suggest Ritual is the one you put on. The Ancient is very odd. I mean, the whole first 6 minutes of it just sounds like, are they even playing the same song? Like it has moments like that in it, you know?
Oh, wow.
So it's very odd. And surprisingly, since you also were mentioning this sort of, where it's kind of laid on the chart world, this album in '73 when it came out was a #1 record in the UK album charts, believe it or not.
Wow.
Number 6 in the US Billboard in '74, number 4 on the Canadian album charts in '74, number 8 on the Dutch album charts in '74, and number 8 in the Swedish and Norwegian ones, and number 9 on the Japan chart. And the certification of it was a gold record by February 8th, '74 in the United States, and it was a gold record in the United Kingdom by March 1st, '74. So it was a gold record later in the UK than it was in the United States, which was interesting, I thought.
That's interesting, yeah. I'm surprised that it went pretty high, and where this wasn't really a single technically that made it, Roundabout or whatever that came before and stuff like that. But I'm surprised. But yeah,
well, it definitely was sold on the merit of previous work, because Close to the Edge was a huge record. Yeah. Fragile was a huge album as well. But I mean, people were highly waiting for this, because when they did Close to the Edge, the next album after Close to the Edge was Yes Shows, which was the big or Yes Songs. I forget.
The Yes Songs, I think.
Yes Songs is the big live album that came out after the triple album thing, and it sold really, really well. And so people were anticipating the next studio album, and then they got this, and people were like, whoa, what is this? Right. So it took a while for people to get used to it, but years later now, this album is one of those things where people are like, this is a fantastic record, look at that album cover, and so it grew on people throughout the years.
Yeah, that's good. That's a cool,
all right,
interesting pick there, Mark.
All right, thank you. Of course, it wasn't as common a pick as you would have thought. So
no, not really. No, I'm not surprised that you picked a Yes album, but I'm surprised you picked that Yes album. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Yes. Yes. All right. So my second pick, that is another '70s album, and it is by. And I just want to do this right, because the band name could have changed to This and That, or just this or that, but it's by Wings. Venus and Mars.
Very nice.
Yeah. Now this one's a repress. This is not an original one. This is a repress from 180. I think this is a color vinyl, actually. I'll have to pull it out. We'll see. I guess we'll see. So this is Venus and Mars. Came out in 1975. The back. Here we go. Lyrics on the back. A la, I think Sgt. Pepper's was the first one to do that, I think, from what I remember back in the day. So it's kind of a throwback. Other artists have done it, obviously a lot since then. I've put that. But this one So it had the cover, and you know, it's for a simpleness, I guess, in a way, but it's kind of a nice. Here's the inside. If I can get this.
Okay.
This is yeah, it's a nice photo taken. It looks like, I don't know where they're at. It looks like a desert, some mountains in behind, but it's the band with McCartney, and I think Linda's
like
on
the
there.
long coat there, the one guy's wearing
Linda's
there.
right next to you. Yeah. So it might be a little cool out there. So maybe it's supposed to represent Mars or something, I was thinking. Kind of like,
okay.
oh, if they were living on Mars or something. I don't know. You know, you could make up whatever you want from your mind. So in keeping with a lot of these, the ball, the yellow, and the like planets or whatever you want to call it, and the design of the back album cover, they continue the design with the inner sleeve. You know.
Oh, okay.
And
I see.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's supposed to mean something. It might spell something in some other language. But I do not know. I'll have to look that up. So this one is an interesting pressing, Mark, and color. So you'll like this one. You might like it. So you know the colors, the scheme of the colors here, of the yellow and the red. Well, here we go. Here's your
Nice.
album. Yeah. So this one came out a couple years ago. They released, put a bunch in color. And I got these. So Venus and Mars, I don't know if that's how they probably had the original label like that. I think it probably was like that. Of course, the songs on here: Venus and Mars, Rock Show. You gave me the answer. Letting Go, great song, Letting Go. And of course, let's see another one. Call Me Back In. Listen to What the Man Said. That was the real huge hit off of here. But really, really good album. Listen to What the Man Said. I actually bought that single when it came out in the 70s. I had the 45. And I had not bought the album back then when that originally came out. Some other things about this album is, I think there was something about when did it come out? No. I said February 75. Well, recorded November 74, released January 20th to February. This is February 75. It's kind of a mix here, but 43 minutes overall. And Listen to What the Man Said, was the first single. Then Letting Go, and then Venus and Mars Rock Show was the third single. And then otherwise, I think I'm sure it did well on the charts.
Paul
U.S. Billboard #1. Number 1 on the U.S. Billboard 200 chart. Let's see. What was Canada #1? In Canada. Also, so, I picked 2 #1 albums in a row. What's with that? So I didn't even try to do that, but it is what it is. It's cool. It's platinum. Surprisingly, it only shows it as being platinum one time. I don't know if I totally believe that. And that's platinum US, 1 million copies sold. So unless they're like Kiss, where they don't want to pay to have the numbers updated, who knows? But in Canada, it's platinum, 100,000.
Yeah.
So
not a surprise. I mean,
there you go.
McCartney and the Beatles are pretty big news over here still, right? So
yeah. So there's nothing unique about that. Now the lyrics, like we were talking a little while ago, Mark. These lyrics here. Hang on there. I can't see where I'm at. But anyway, the lyrics are very small. They're pretty darn small on the back. I mean, I can read them, but yeah, they're pretty small. Anyway, so I thought, that's a little bit different. I like the design of it and how they kept the theme. And even keeping the colors on the repress of the vinyl, of having those colors. It was a great idea that they did that. So
Yeah, I think that those kind of things got taken more seriously as time went on. Like this kind of like, let's try to have a theme here, color, whether it's color theme or a design theme, or let's have some pictures that all unite. Like, because I'm guessing back when records first came out, like back in the day, like in the 60s, it just seemed to be very much the same thing, where it was like a picture in the front, flip it just had the album songs, and then maybe one picture in the top left or right corner.
Yeah, they'd write a little blurb about the artist or something on the album. Yeah, in the list. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that this became more imperative, and if you think about it, it also opened up a whole new world of jobs for people, graphic designers and artists and photographers who got in on doing specialized photography and stuff for album covers. So I mean, it's an interesting field of work, and I'm sure if you were to interview people like Roger Dean and stuff like that, he can give you a world of different stories. By the way, if you're a fan of Roger Dean, on his website, on his Facebook page, he's doing some live streaming of him doing album covers right now. He's doing one for the Downs Braid Association record, which is Jeff Downs from Yes. He has a side project. Okay. He's doing a cover for that. They also had him doing a live stream of doing an album cover for an upcoming Yes live album, which was interesting, that you can actually see him doing his painting live on the spot there.
That's neat. That's cool.
Yeah. So there you go. That's the kind of things that people are much more interested in now than you ever would have been back in the early 60s. Like there's nothing really to be interested in back then, right?
No.
Great. So that's an interesting pick. I like the vinyl a lot. I love how they did that split color in there. It's very cool. So another great pick again by Mr. Keenan. Thank you very much for that selection.
Thank you.
And we'll go now to my second one.
All right.
And this one again is from a band that's going to be no surprise. But let me preface this selection with a little small story.
Okay.
So when I first got into this band, it was through my sister, which is no big surprise. Everybody knows that. I've told that 100,000 times. And the album that got me into this band was a live album.
Okay.
Right? And it really got to me. And it got me into my world of music as it was. But that's not the record we're going to talk about now. This record is the one that came earlier, and really, to me, is what I believe to be the best example of a live album ever, and everything about it, including the inner sleeve design work of it, has been glued in my brain forever, and it's always been my go-to for what I think a live album should look like in design and stuff like that. So that album, now let me just get it here without dropping everything here, is Rush, All the World's a Stage.
I knew it.
Now,
good pick. Yeah.
First, we see in the back, we have a shot of the guys there jamming it out, rocking out.
Yeah.
Now, let me just move my mic here so I can open this up. But this, much like your Rod Stewart selection, is a triple gatefold.
Trifold, yeah.
Yeah. Oops, let me get this
album. Yep.
Album out of there.
Yeah.
And as you can see, we are flooded with pictures
from the live shows. Yeah.
So there you have one side of it, right? Here is the. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
So that's
cool.
The middle piece, and that is
the left.
So
yeah.
Now, what I was talking about earlier, now just for completion, here's what it's on the other side of that piece there, right?
Yep.
It's just like a showing of the other albums and the information,
which
and then
is
of course you have
promotional for your prior music, which is a good idea to do. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, what I was talking about earlier, like imagine, it would have been maybe 15-year-old Mark at that time when he got this, Christmas time. I think my sister bought it for me, opening it up and going, holy crap, man, like look at all these pictures, and this is what Massey Hall looks like, and like you see pictures of Neil behind his drum kit. You see some nice close-up pictures of Alex and his Les Paul. There's a picture of the crew. There's a picture of the stage. And I mean, at this point, I was getting into music, even playing it. I just had started playing guitar. I think at 15, I started playing. And, already dreams of, playing on live stages were dancing in my head already. So this album really meant a lot to me in that sense, because every time I'd put this record on, and I always say that this is one of the best albums because the live ambience from this album is really present on this record. I mean, Exit Stage Left doesn't have nearly as much of the live atmosphere on it as this does. But, I would just stare at this record, like much how people always talk about Kiss Alive doing that.
Yeah.
This was my Kiss Alive. I would stare at this and going, wow, like, it'd be so cool to be able to play at Massey Hall, because Massey Hall was in Toronto, right where I am around here, right? So I connected to this album on many levels. I mean, I loved these albums anyways, like the studio records. And so when this came out, it was literally that moment where I would set it up like this, open it up like this, plop it down on the table or on the floor, and I would turn it on and I would just sit there and stare at it the whole time when I was listening to the records, know?
Right. It's like your own concert in your room going on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, here's the records here. I'll show you one of them because they're virtually the same. And this is side 3, I believe. Yes, side 3. Let me just get that over to you here.
Towers. Yeah. Yeah. Very familiar with that one.
And I believe this here is side 4. Yeah. Now, why I'm surprised at that is because I have a version that has side 1 and side 4, and side 2 and side 3.
Oh, right. Yeah, they used to do that for the flip. The automatic turntables. Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Now,
I used to have
this.
Yeah.
Now, this one, I believe, for all you Dead Wax people, I'm trying to get a good look here. Let me see. I can kind of see it here. Sorry, give me 1 second here.
Is it AZ?
It is. No, it is.
Or is it
JAMF, which means just another mastering facility, which is basically the Lacquer Channel here in Toronto. Before the Lacquer Channel became the Lacquer Channel, it was just another mastering facility.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, and
that's cool. Yeah.
And that means that there could be only one man who is involved in the mastering of this. And if I'm not mistaken, I see here it has just RE, which means that this is probably the retake of it, like a reissue of it.
Yeah.
But George Graves is the man who cut all the Rush stuff back in the day. About the Kings, Hemispheres, all those records far back 2112. But you can also find a Gilbert Kong master
Gilbert Kong
of this.
Yeah.
And I have a Gilbert Kong 2112, a Gilbert Kong Crest of Steel. But those are U.S. presses, okay? These ones here are Canadian. This is the Canadian release here.
What was it I had that... I have a Rush one that has Gilbert Kong and Graves on the other side. They're like one side is one and one side is the other, which is interesting. Yeah.
I have a 2112 that has Gilbert Kong on one side and Robert Ludwig on the other.
Oh, wow.
So that's a really interesting cut of a record as well. Much like how I had a very interesting cut of Kiss Alive 1, which has Robert Ludwig on side 2, 3, and 4, and Alan Zent, AZ, on side A. So one side is Alan, and 3 sides of Robert Ludwig.
It happens sometimes when they're switching, and that usually happens when they're switching the what do they call it, the plate or whatever.
The stampers.
The stamper, and it one's they wear out after a certain amount, or they run them for a certain amount of pressings, and then they switch them to another one, and it could be a different master you know.
Yeah, or what probably happens is, hey Charlie, the young new guy who's working there, go over to the shelf and pick out the new stampers for the Rush album. Okay, and he goes and looks and grabs accidentally the one that's supposed to be the second run over, like after the next set were done.
Yeah.
He grabs the wrong one and grabs the Alan Zent one or something,
Yeah. Then I guess explain another thing. Well, we can explain another thing about when we talked about the sides. Sometimes it's 1 and 4 or 2 and 3, or it's 1 and side 1, side 2, 3 and 4. But sometimes it's not always that way. And that's because, and for these maybe any younger people out there getting into vinyl, is the old little record players back in the old days, small compact things. They had there were some that had the little post that would stick out from the middle of the platter, and you put your stack of, so one album you'd have number 1 first, you'd want to play side 1 first, and side 2 was on the other album, other vinyl album, and then you put that on top, and then you flip this little thing over there to hold it in place. Then you'd push the automatic button, and the first one would drop down, dunk, drop down onto the platter, and then the tone arm would go and land on the thing and start playing the first side. And when that's done, it would automatically go back. Then the second one that's still sitting above it would drop down, and it would start playing side 2. That's the old automatic turntables. You don't see those anymore, obviously. It's not good for records, I'd say.
No.
Condition-wise, but that's what we had. I had that when I was young, when I first started, buying my 45s and other, vinyl records.
And I read somewhere that was done to keep in mind for people who used to have these elaborate house parties, that people used to complain that they had to stand up and go and change sides. So they're saying, okay, we're going to design it now so that you can put a stack of albums up, and you can have it on so that side 1 will go, side 2 will drop, then the next album will go, and so you can just never have to stand up for hours if you stacked it properly.
Yeah, that would make that makes sense. I can't remember how much you used to be able to fit on there, but you could put a little stack on there, and it was different. It was cool.
Yeah. And just to conclude my thing here, just for those who are interested, this album did appear on the U.S. Billboard chart, peaking at position 40 on the chart for All the World is Stage. So there's my number 2 pick, and time for Mr. Ken's number 3 pick.
That's a good pick. Yep, I haven't replaced my vinyl on that one yet, but I have the CD of it. But I did have that vinyl way back in the late 70s. I did buy that. And then I got rid of them, and then I'm getting them back now. All right, so my next album is from another one from the 70s for you. An album that came out in 1973. And this one will surprise you because you're not going to even expect this one. So, this album is by a group called The Carpenters.
The Carpenters.
Yeah. So, let me get So, this is an album called Now and Then. And it was the album I got when it came out, actually, back then. Surprisingly. And the thing on this one is it's a gatefold, but it's like you had with the Yes, or no, the Rush one. I mean, it's a trifold. So you have the whole front here, which has them in the car, Karen Carpenter, Richard Carpenter in a car, and actually this I'll just explain that this picture or photo was taken in front of their house. This is a real picture, and it looks like a movie set to me. Just everything, the street and everything. You'll see the street on the other picture, but I was like, what? It doesn't look real. It just doesn't look. But they may have touched it up or did something. But this is also, he had just bought a Ferrari. at the time too. So he bought his first
Nice.
Ferrari, and he's really into cars, I guess. But anyway, all right. So if I open it up into the trifold, oof, here we go. Let me get it all here. But here's like the backside of the car and the street, houses, the neighborhood, I guess. We already saw the front, and then the other one was the front of the car. So that's the outside of it. So it's just kind of a long panoramic type view of the album. Now I might as well pull this out of here because I don't want to slip and fall out. But on the inside, you have it's like two portraits and then center information on the producer. So if I look at this one, there's Karen Carpenter, and then Richard Carpenter, and the center part is all about the production and whatnot of the album. What I like about this is produced by Richard and Karen Carpenter. What I like also about this, the music on it is why it was called Now and Then is I guess their aunt or something or grandmother said something about Now and Then, which was an old standard type song, and they were going to do it on this album, but they didn't do it. What they ended up doing is basically new material for the most part of the first side of the album. They had new songs like Sing and some other things. So, but side 2 was a new song. They had that Yesterday Once More, which became a hit. But then after that, the rest of it is covers of old, early 60s rock and roll. So what they did is they did songs like The Do Run Run and Dead Man's Curve.
Oh yeah.
Dean, Johnny Angel, The Night Has 1,000 Eyes, Our Day Will Come, One Fine Day, and then they reprised into Yesterday Once More again. So what they did is they also on that string of songs, they weren't always full songs, but they were close. But they treated it like a radio show. They had a host guy saying, it was like the old hosts back in the day, how they were, Wolfman Jack or whatever, how they sounded. And they'd cue up a song. They even have a part in it where it connects, and then they fade out and something else comes in. He's like, okay, now a song from, the Crystals, and then it goes into that. And then they have even a little radio contest thing. Someone calls on the phone and says, can you he says, can you name the blah 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 blah, and the guy says something and he goes, what was that? And then he goes, you are wrong. So anyway, it's kind of funny, but I love the old how they did the classic songs. It was great. It was all tied together. But the inner sleeve that has all the lyrics, and obviously it has a lot of old classic cars on there, from I guess the time period of when the songs were the older songs were on the second side.
Yeah.
So he has your standard A&M record label you've probably seen before. And this is a repressing. This one, I have an original one, but it's a repress. It's remastered and whatever 180 gram. So sounds pretty good. The other thing about this album, and I guess I'll bring it up, is it's one of the albums that Karen Carpenter played the drums on most or all of the drumming on the album except for one song. So she played. She was a very good drummer. People didn't know. That's how they started off. She was drumming all the time. She drummed when they were live. She was drumming, but she was a very good drummer. She drummed everything except for one song. Who the drummer was on the song she didn't do on Jambalaya, Hal Blaine.
Oh, okay.
Hal Blaine for the Wrecking Crew.
Yeah.
Famous, great drummer. did that. So, you know, I don't know how well it did or not. I guess I'll look real quick. I know Sing was a big hit. Yesterday Once More was a hit. Let's see here where it says. Does it have this? Oh, here we go. Yeah, the album charts. So, U.S. Billboard, it number 2. And number 2.
Oh, nice.
U.S. Billboard 200. In Canada, it was number 2 also. So, consistent there between those two. So, it's, I don't know. I got it way back. I think it was my second Carpenter's album because the first one was, I believe, was the singles, which was kind of a greatest hits type thing. Which was great. But this one was really good. I really enjoyed the music on both sides, and especially I just like wore out the second side because I just loved hearing all those old rock classics. It just, again, it's string one into the other, and had like it was like a radio. You listening to a radio. It was really, really well done. So that is the pick, my third pick, which I said you're not going to pick this one.
Well, it's interesting because I do have a Carpenter's album downstairs. I realized that
oh, you do?
I think when my father passed away, we were going through some of the albums that he had downstairs, and there was a Carpenter's record down there. I'm trying to remember if it might have been this one actually, but it was a similar type of album. I'll have to check later on to see what one it is. I'll send you a picture of it. Yeah. To let you know what it was. But I mean, I'm familiar with the Carpenters, obviously. Who isn't? I mean, they were pretty well known and
big
well played on the radio. So they're and I mean, I think there was even a story I think with Gene Simmons saying that he met Karen Carpenter or something like that.
Yeah, that's somewhere. Right. He did meet her. She was on another floor of the hotel. They were staying in the same hotel, and he went to her room. I think he said they talked all night.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Which is
that
very
Gene
surprising.
Simmons
when you think of Gene Simmons, it's like, but I guess it was a true story. So
yeah, interesting. Great. So another fantastic pick, and one of the things I like about the dynamic that we have is that we usually don't pick the same sort of albums all the time, and we have a good variety of different things to show.
Yeah.
And speaking of variety, my last pick here is by an artist that everybody will know for sure, but it's definitely not an album that most people have, and especially since this album is incredibly hard now to find on vinyl, and I just double checked now on Discogs, and if you were to buy a near mint copy like I have, because I've kept my copy in really good condition, you're looking at maybe $400 apparently US for this album.
Oh really?
So yeah, I was very surprised at how much it was, because even when I bought it back in the, and it wasn't that long ago actually when I bought it, because it came out, the reissue of this that came out in 2015, and those are the ones that cost this huge money. Okay, this album originally came out on September 25th, 1995. This album.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Well, when they were making less vinyl at that time,
yeah.
Hardly any.
And so, and then this got, that's why it got reissued, and of course it got snapped up because, it was one of those things. Friday Music made it colored vinyl. They went for the whole 9 yards with it, and I'll show you what it is. And that is David Bowie, Outside.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, Outside. This album is a double album.
Yep.
Now, it's very interesting. Before I open it, I'm just going to read you a couple things here really quickly on here. The liner notes in here, which I'll show you really quickly, because this is another one of these triple open up dealies.
Oh, nice.
So here you have one of it. Okay.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh wow. That's cool.
And there's all kinds of stories and lyrics in here because this is a concept album. Okay. Now I'll open it and show you more detail of it in a second, but I just wanted to tell you here. The liner notes feature a short story by Bowie titled "The Diary of Nathan Alder" or "The Art Ritual Murder of Baby Grace Blue," a non-linear gothic drama hypercircle, which outlines a somewhat dystopian version of the year 1999, in which the government, through its art commission, has created a new bureau to investigate the phenomenon of art crime. In this future, murder and mutilation of bodies has become a new underground art craze.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you can imagine, this, the album is filled with references to characters and their lives as he investigates the complicated events leading up to the murder of a 14-year-old girl. Now, it says here that some people would claim that this album has a strong smattering of Diamond Dogs, sort of this post-apocalyptic situation going on in there. And apparently, the interesting thing about this record is that there was a sort of idea that he had with this album. And it said that Bowie had considered writing an album every year or so through to the end of the millennium to tell the story of how the end of the millennium felt. So this was supposed to be the first one, because if you look at the album title, it says outside, but it says
Number one.
decided.
Yeah.
So he was supposed to write an album every year from 96 to 2000.
Wow.
To complete that whole story idea, but this was the only one that ever got done. Right?
He probably thought,
Because
I don't know if I want to keep doing it. Yeah.
Well, because people started saying that this sounded very influenced by Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails. It had a lot of that kind of feel into it as well.
Yeah.
And I think that he maybe thought that, David Bowie is interesting that he'll go onto a kind of phase with his music, and then after when he gets bored of it quickly, he's like, "No, we're going to move on to something else." And then he started doing albums like Reality and Heathen and albums like that, which were more back to kind of David Bowie-ish writing style, more like singer-songwriter-ish, but cool stuff. You know what I mean? And but this album is incredible. I mean, Heart's Filthy Lesson is a very popular song off of this. Hello Space Boy is a popular song off of this. And I mean, if you can follow along literally this album, like the whole story on here. Now, here is the vinyl. I'll show you really quickly. It is, as I said before, a white vinyl.
No wonder it's even worth the price it's getting. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's
before the craze of colored vinyl, which is now. Back then, it wasn't a craze, but now it's like, oh wow, he did that back then, and probably they didn't press that many of those. I'm guessing.
No, not at all. Because I didn't. Unfortunately, this is still early in my collecting.
Yeah.
I had not kept the hype sticker of this, which I think said that it was a limited of 1,000 or whatever pressings of it.
Wow.
Or something like that. I think it was
probably pretty low. Yeah.
But it's interesting though, because is there a number on here? No, there's not a number on here. But I thought sometimes they have like numbers on the back to tell you. Of it. But it's interesting that this album was produced by David Bowie and Brian Eno.
Oh, Brian.
Right.
Eno.
So there's another one of those kind of electronic influences going on in here. Yeah. And it opens like this here. Now, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly here, oops, sorry about that, there is something else in here, I think, or no. So, yeah, see, this is another example of Friday music and their remaking or idea of making a record, because apparently the original one had like a booklet that had all these lyrics and stuff like that, but they put the booklet onto the gatefold.
Which is,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it works. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another one of their kind of versions of like redoing the record. The other record here is also another white vinyl. And when I took a look on here, Ron McMaster, RM, is noted in the dead wax for this. And for the sake of more information, this album did okay. Like it says, like Australia was number 55, Austrian album charts 22, Belgium 12, Danish 10, Finnish album charts 26, German 33, New Zealand 37, Norwegian 15, Swedish 13, Swiss 22, number 8 in the UK where it was the best where it did, and number 21 in the US charts. Certification only has it as silver status in the UK with 60,000 sales.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's no other certification on here. So, and a lot of these songs were used in movies, and there was like, alternate remixes of it. Like I said here, a modified version of No Control was adopted by David Bowie and Brian Eno and used in the stage musical adaptation of SpongeBob SquarePants.
Really? That's funny.
Yeah. Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, so that album to me is one of those records. Now, just explaining why I picked this one, because I love Bowie, as you all know. I just recently did a little album review of Space Odyssey picture disc that just came out.
Right, yeah.
And this album is one of the records that, I don't mind this record. It's pretty good, but it's obviously influenced by music at the time that was popular as well. Right, and it's good. It's really well written, well produced. It sounds really good on vinyl. There's no complaints in any way of that. There's a lot of like really weird segues in here. Like it says here, like segue Nathan Adler. It'll be like 652, blah 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 blah, and like all kinds of like weird conversations of stuff going on, and talking about like some murder and stuff like that. It's like supposed to be a full out story, right? Yeah. But the reason why I picked this one is because I thought it was really well done. It's very well packaged. It's very sturdy, and really, this one kind of goes in my collection of like stuff like my test pressing of Van Halen 1, and some of my other records that I have that are pretty getting valuable now. So I have to be a little bit more, careful of them. Like I have I think I have a first UK pressing of Heroes as well. And those are starting to get up there as well in price. So you know what I mean? So those records now I'm starting to keep my eye on, because whenever I look at my Discogs thing, and you can go and it'll tell you the estimation of the price of your collection as it is where it is. The numbers seem to be going up quite a bit, so I'm going to have to keep my eye open to see what's been increasing in value, right? So, but it happens. That's why I always tell people, when you see a record come out now, and if it's a color vinyl or something like that, get it now while it's still like $40 or $50, because soon it will be like $200 and $300.
Yeah, it will be. A lot of them are going to go up. They'll go out of print. They're only making a certain amount, and then that's it. And then they do, maybe it'll come back as something else, some other pressing, but it may not be the same, or it won't be color or whatever. So yeah, there
you go.
Well, cool. So, that's a good one. I've never seen that one. I've never seen that album before. I don't even remember it coming out. I don't remember it. Yeah. It
was that time period when Bowie had like, Earthling, this one, and I think the other one was I forget what the other record was, but it was it was the time period where he was kind of like at his ebb, where people were thinking that maybe he's going to start wrapping things up soon.
Right. Yeah.
But then he came back and surprised everybody with like records like Heathen and records like Reality, and then he came back with The Next Day, which people were like absolutely shocked with, and then he came back with Black Star, and then it was gone just like that. Yeah. Okay. But I mean, I think that we picked some very interesting records today. Thank you, Ken, for your selections of records. And, people out there who are watching, let us know what you think of these selections, and maybe talk about some of the gatefolds that you think are worth mentioning that's in your collection. I'm sure we'd like to hear about them and, talk about them on another episode. So I guess that's it for now. Another one in the can, and we'll be back again soon with another episode. I have a feeling sooner or later we'll be doing one of our classic album showdowns, which are going to be always fun to do. Yeah. And until that point, though, we will leave you now. On behalf of myself and Mr. Ken Keenan, thank you for watching, and we'll be back again soon with another episode. Take care and be safe out there.